video recorded. They're not on Facebook Live as we've done in the past. They're going to be, and so you therefore, if you can't make a meeting in person, you're not going to be able to watch it live. Okay, they're going to be put on YouTube after the fact. Brandon here, who also referees, is doing our video work for us, and hopefully, what I'd like to do with some of this is I'm going to try to take snippets of these meetings, and we might do some other work separate from the meetings, but edit some of the things that I say in the meeting and use them to send to you guys for training and like weekly. I'll put it in my newsletter, which many of you will probably already get. If you don't get it, you will. Different things like that. So I'm going to try to ramp up as much as we can some of the weekly or bi-weekly training once we're in season, if that makes sense, okay? Pre-season, obviously, if you got my email, which you did because you're here, we will be meeting here every week, same time, Sunday afternoons, 2 o'clock, for basically 8 straight weeks, okay? And we will be going through something different every week. There's a lot in basketball. I mean, we did this with volleyball. We only had 2 meetings. Some of you were there for that. But for basketball, it's a lot more intensive as far as rules and philosophies, different, communication, a lot of different stuff involved with basketball. And to be a really good basketball official, it's important that, you have a good base of many of the things that we're going to be, going over each week in these meetings. So, but this first week is primarily just a kind of an introduction to Breakaway Sports, and it gives me an opportunity to share with you like my protocols, my procedures, what I expect, my expectations of you, and then your expectations for me as well. All of this is outlined. Now, normally I have this printed out, but I had a little issue with that today. I was going to a UPS store, which was not open when I arrived. Stupid me for not looking, or checking before I left. But so I did not get the material printed. You will have this in your hands next week, okay? Or if you can't come next week at a future meeting, I'll have them at the rest of the meetings. So, but for today, it's just going to be up on the board. So if you brought notepad and pen, that's good because you'll want to take some notes. And then once you do have this in hand, it's 4 pages, which we're going to go through. The very last page is more or less a contract that I'll ask you to sign and return to me before we start the regular season, okay? Which, again, we have 2+ months before that happens, okay? One other thing which I'll address now is the other piece of our training, other than the classroom sessions for the next 8 weeks, is right before the season really kicks off. There's going to be some scrimmage opportunities on court. You're going to be officiating live games. I'll be there. Other guys will be there to observe and give you instant feedback in your games. In the next few weeks, I'll share more on how that's going to work, the dates. I don't have all that lined up yet, but you will be required to go to at least one. If you're new to basketball officiating or new with Breakaway Sports, even if you have a little bit of experience officiating, I'm probably going to need you to go to 2 sessions, on-court sessions, okay? Just so I can get a good feel for what you can do. I can see you work. I can give you feedback. You can kind of get, my philosophy on officiating, and, it gives me a good barometer for where I can put you during the season, what kind of games I can give you, and we're going to go over all that today as far as what's available, okay? What's available through our organization, all right? So just remember, though, if you do have a question, I'm okay with questions, but I'm on video. We're on video here, so I want you to, instead of just like blurting out something, whether it's an opinion or a question or whatever it is, even comments, I would ask that you kind of more or less give me an indication that you have something you'd like to say, and if I need to finish, a thought or whatever it is, I'll finish that and then I'll address you. Okay. And of course, Al's going to be the one that starts that first.
Well, I watched your volleyball YouTube.
Yes.
And the audience that was asking the questions, you could not hear the question.
Okay, so and that's a fair point, so I'm going to try to repeat. I will try to repeat those questions and then answer the question. Very good. Thank you for that. Okay. All right, good. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. One more thing, I don't want these meetings. The goal is to get these meetings done within an hour and a half, okay? Today may be a little shorter, maybe not, because once we're through this, there's only one other thing that we're going to go over, and that's the rule changes for this year, which there's really only one major rule change. It's a big one, but depending on what level you work will determine whether it's even applicable to you. So, but we're going to go over that anyway. So we'll go through this, and then we'll go through the rule changes, and we'll be done for today, okay? Each week when I send out an email to remind you of the meeting, which I will do, hopefully it will have the topic for the week that we're going to be discussing, okay? I'll give you an idea of what we're going to be doing, okay? All right, great. So let's get started here. And I'm going to try to go through some of this quick, and I'm going to stop on a few of these points. We'll spend more time on some and less time on others. Again, you will have all this information in person or in your hand by next week, okay? So, but feel free again to take notes and all that right now, okay? All right, so the very first thing, and again, some of this is review for those that have already been with me, but there's been some changes too. So there's a lot of information here. Very first thing here is registration. If you're not on Arbiter, and you just follow along up here, okay? I don't have a clicker or pointer or anything. If you're not on Arbiter Sports, I will put you on Arbiter Sports, okay? That is an assignment website. Even if you have an Arbiter Sports account with another sport or a different organization that you already officiate with, I will need to add you to my Arbiter Sports account. So don't just assume, even if you're on there, if you're not on mine, then I have to add you. So I would ask that if you're not on my Arbiter Sports account, that you send me an email sometime this week, and I'll plug you in. Okay? The email helps remind me, gives me a reminder to do certain things. It keeps me on task, and email with me is super important. Okay? It's not that you can't call me or text me, but email is the number one way to communicate with me because it helps keep me on task and get the things done that need to be done. So that's one of the things. Anytime you have anything that I need to address with you, including putting you on Arbiter, you're going to want to email me. All right, and we'll get to communication in a bit. That's down the line here, just a sec. But you need to be on Arbiter. Once you're on Arbiter, okay, and the paperwork is basically just that contract which I talked about, which you'll have next week. Okay, that's A. B is Arbiter. Once you're on Arbiter, you're gonna want to go into your profile and confirm your physical address. Actually, is there internet access here? I may already have it, so I may be. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to show you Arbiter real quick, since we have the ability to do that. Okay. So you're going to log into Arbiter here, and you'll see here if you're part of different groups. I have different groups here that I'm a part of. I'm going to go into. Actually, I should have went into. I'm going to go back. Let's do the official one instead of the assigner one. Okay. All right. So this is what it'll look like for you when you go into Arbiter. Okay. If you have games assigned, these are volleyball games. That'll be on your front page, on your dashboard, if you can see right up there on the left. Okay. All right. It'll also show the groups that you have that you're in, and you can check your Arbiter pay balance here too, which we'll talk about more later. Okay. All right. The next one here is schedule, which will give you a little more detail on your schedule. Oh, I forgot. Okay, yeah. So this is all, that's a lot of games there that I got from my assigner, but for volleyball. But that'll give you all your scheduled games for through Breakaway Sports. I'm going to go back to dashboard because if you go down, you'll see. Now this is from volleyball. I didn't put this up for basketball. I put the meeting schedule up for volleyball. You'll have different announcements here that you can see on the dashboard page if you go below your upcoming schedule. Okay, you can see here uniform. This is basketball from last year. Uniform for all games, arbiter assignments, communication pay. It kind of outlines a lot of the same things that we're going to talk about today, but that was just a reminder in season. Okay, all right. So you can go to schedule, you can go to payments, and you can see what you're owed. Okay, I can see what I'm going to get paid for each game right there, or that's coming through arbiter pay. All right, I go to my blocks. This is super important. Okay, so this is in our procedures and protocols. All right, so I'm going to check the groups that I want to block on. I'm going to go over here on the left-hand side, and I can block all day. If you see right there, I just checked or clicked on that little circle there that said block all day. All right. If you see blue, that means you have an assignment. Okay. Blue is an assignment that you've already accepted. So all those blues are assignments that I've accepted. And you can see over here on the left, you can see the legend, okay, as well down as you go along. Okay. When you go and block a day, so I'm going to block, let's just say I'm going to block the 17th, okay, of September, okay? It immediately goes red. You see that, right? Okay. That's a full day block. All right. I can also do part day blocks by clicking that part day circle there. Then I would have to choose a time up here, a time range. Let's say I want to block from 8 to 4 because I'm working my regular job until 4 p.m. I click, let's see here, apply over here. You can choose the days. All right, so I'm going to click, that's a Wednesday. I want to do Wednesdays only. All right, so I'm taking off every other day. I'm going to click apply. And then down below, you'll see, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I got to put a date range in here. I'm sorry. So we'll just put in Wednesdays from September 3rd. No, I can't do that because I'm already assigned on a game on September 3rd. I'll just do the 17th. I'll just put one date in. You can put a range in, okay? So you can do all this, and it's pretty easy to do, but just kind of give you an idea here. Okay, so I put the 17th in, and it's from 8 to 4. So you'll see once that's done, at the very bottom, you can see I have a full day block already, but I also have a block from 8 to 4. So, and then I can go ahead and, delete whatever I need to delete by hitting these X's, okay? I can edit those or do whatever I want, okay? Does that all make sense to everyone? All right, good. So that's how the blocking works. Let's go to, I'm trying to go to my profile, which maybe it's this right here. How do you go to your profile?
Hit your image.
Okay. Here we go. Very good. Thank you. I don't ever do this because I'm always on the admin side, so I don't ever have to do this. So thank you for those of you that do that. Okay. All right. So here's my profile. So the first thing I want to do, obviously, I want to check to make sure all my information's in there. You don't have to put all of this information in, but what you do need to put in, which I don't put in, is your address. Okay. So your address must be in. All right. So that's number one. And then your phone number also needs to be in. That's also required. Even though there's no star for the phone number, your phone number is required to be in. Okay? And the reason for that is that you're going to be, most of the time, you're going to be working with other officials, and they're going to need a way to contact you and confirm, games and stuff together. Okay? All right, Scott, you want to add something to that?
Is it important to keep your blocks up to date?
It's super important to keep your blocks up to date. Yes, that might be the most important thing for me personally, one of the most important things, okay? All right? Okay, so once you're in your profile, again, you want to make sure that your address is confirmed, number one, your physical address, okay? Because you're also, for many of these games, you'll get paid a mileage fee, okay? So if your address is not in there correctly, then the mileage will be off. Okay, and if you don't put an address in there, then Arbiter just automatically puts you at 999 miles away, which I won't even see your name unless I specifically type in your name to look for it. Okay, so you must put an address in. All right, you're not gonna. Nobody's gonna get paid for 999 miles. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. So put an address in. Put your cell phone in, and make sure it's public. And I'll get to you in just a sec, Brandon. Okay. I want to see if I can. Where do you find that, Lizzie? Do you remember where to find the cell phone public thing? Is it right here? Make private. Okay. So over here on the right, these three little dots. All you got to do is make sure it says it's public. Okay. So if it says make private, that means it's already public. If it says make public, click it to make it public. Okay. All right. But make sure your cell phone number is in there. Brandon.
If you're getting assigned by another signer, does that automatically block that off if you've been booked for that day, or how does that work?
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, so this other information is not necessary on your profile. I want to finish out on that. So let's go back to blocks. Okay, and I don't have anything. I can't show you that because I'm not currently assigned by anybody else, but it will show as a block. So on my end, as an administrator, sorry, I'm not supposed to hit the mic. As an administrator, if you are assigned through another arbiter account, it will show as a block on my end. Now, typically, it will only show as a block for the specific time of the game and theoretically your travel to and from the game. Okay, so if let's say for instance you're assigned a 4 o'clock game from another organization, but it's only one game at 4 o'clock and you're done at 5. It's a 4 to 5 game. Okay, and let's say I have games at 6:30. Assuming that it's in Greenville and I'm going to assign you games in Greenville or Easley, and you can get to a game for me at 6:30, you'll show open unless you block on my end. Okay, so I can do that. Now I can also override, but I'm not going to override without your permission. Keep that in mind right now. Any arbiter or assigner can override, and some just do automatically. I will not do that automatically. I will reach out to you and say, hey, I noticed you have this. If you have a game already, I'm not going to bother you. Okay, but if you have just a personal block, I might reach out to you and say, hey, I'm really busy this day. Is there any way that you could open this day up so that I can, because I need to use you. And if you say no, it's the end of the discussion. I will not hold it against you. That's the other thing. Okay, you have to understand, like, you are an independent contractor, and if, there's going to be things that we can do to help each other and work together communication-wise and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I cannot force you to do anything that you don't want to do. Okay, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to work. The more you can work, the better it is for me and for you. Okay, the more you're going to get paid, all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, you're an independent contractor, and I can't tell you where or when to work. It's completely up to you. All right, and I want that on video, and we're going to snippet that and send it out to the world because there's people that aren't like that. Okay, sorry, I didn't. I won't even go there. Okay, all right. So, but that's a great question. It will block if you have, but it won't block the whole day. So you'll still need to be diligent to block. If you don't want to work again, you'll still need to be diligent to block. Okay, it's always good, and you can see over here, up here on the left, the different groups that I'm in. Okay, if you want to block in one group and not another, then fine, do that. Okay, so I could block in global and keep Breakaway open, or vice versa, or whatever. Okay, or you can block in both. But if you're, so if you're in another group, you gotta learn how to manage all that. Okay, and that's up to you, not me. Okay, but I do need you to do that. Okay, and stay diligent with that all season long. All right, okay. So again, just going back to the basics of Arbiter, we want to make sure that the address is in, the cell phone's in, and it's public. You make sure you're marked ready to be assigned, which is if I go to where's that, Lizzie? Where's ready to be assigned? It might be on the dashboard.
I think it's on your personal page. Your profile page.
Profile page up here? Okay.
It used to be open, but now it's moved.
Maybe under sign in security or no?
Additional information?
Yeah, which you can answer these questions. You don't have to. Conflict of interest is good if you work for a school or something like that and you don't want to work there, you can do that. It's not there. Is it under sign-in? Nope, it's not under sign-in. Anyway, it's somewhere, but if it's not, that's not a huge deal because I can mark you ready too. Okay, and I will do that unless you specifically tell me that you're not or you don't want to be. Okay, all right. So that's that. Okay, and then number 4, always keep your Arbiter calendar up to date with blocks on dates and specific times you can't work. That's big. That's in caps. That's super important. One of the most important things that I need from you, okay? So, and if you have a regular work schedule or a school schedule or whatever it is, you pretty much know that from the beginning, right? From the beginning of the season, you're going to know that. So put all those blocks in, all right? And then as something comes up like another event, like you have to travel for work or you have a school event that you weren't aware of from the beginning of the season or what have you, as new things pop up, go back into Arbiter and block it. Okay, be diligent to do that. That's huge. If you do that, like you're already up at the top of my list. Okay, if you're doing just that. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. Any questions on Arbiter at all? Yes.
On average, how early in advance do you want us to block our dates? I know that's like a huge question. I'm not trying to toe the line as far as last minute blocks, but we're talking a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah. So my goal is to have be at 2 weeks out on the schedule, at least 2 weeks if I can. Okay. So yes, I would say 2 weeks, but I want you to, like, if you have a date for March that you already know you can't work, you should block it now. Okay, so don't wait on 100% I can't work those dates. Block them immediately. But yeah, things that come up, like I said, things that come up, even if you're already assigned a game and something comes up that you have to get out of the game, okay, that's okay. If it's a legitimate thing, you're sick, you have to travel for work, or a school function that you can't get out of, whatever it is, okay, all right, then I'm flexible. I can work with you, okay, but you have to communicate with me in that way, all right? You can't just and really what I don't want you to do is, like, if I assign you a game, one of the worst things you could do is turn it back or decline the game. Decline the game. Because one, that means that you didn't block the date, okay? But what I'd rather you do is if you just forgot a date or something came up that was last minute or whatever, and I assigned you a game that you legitimately can't work, then send me an email and say, hey, this came up, I can't get out of it. Unfortunately, I have to decline this game, okay? Simple as that. That's an easy way to stay in my good graces, if you want to say it that way, is communication, which we're going to get into here in just a minute, okay? Again, as long as you're communicating with me, 99% of we're not going to have any issues, to be honest.
If you go
Al.
back in to unblock, or if you're on a game and you decide you need to block that date in Arbiter, it'll ask you why. It'll pop up, says
Turn it back.
If you turn back or decline a game, it'll ask for a reason why, which some people actually answer it, and some people just type in blah, 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 blah. Seriously, some people just type in gibberish. So, I don't rely on that because it's idiot proof or not idiot proof, whatever you want to say. But okay, so that's why I would rather you just shoot me a quick email and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but something's come up on this date that you gave me a game. I'm going to need to decline. And then you can hit decline. Okay, but just let me know. All right, good. So, all right, we're going to keep going here. Attend as many, it says all, but attend as many of the training meetings and scrimmages that you can. Purchase necessary equipment and uniform for the sport. And this volleyball's in here too. You'll see that in a minute. So this is for volleyball and basketball. And then you'll pay a registration fee, which is $60 for any returning official, which is $10 higher, okay? And $40, which is $10 lower for first-year officials, Okay, used to be 50 across the board. Now it's 60 and 40. All right. I'll explain how that works in just a minute. Okay, you don't have to pay that today. All right. As far as assignments, again, we've touched on a little bit of this, but all assignments come through Arbiter Sports. 99% of assignments come through Arbiter Sports during the winter season. There's a few exceptions. All right, and then you have 72 hours from the time I release the assignment for you to accept it. Now let me show you what that looks like. Well, I don't think I can, but I'll go to blocks, sorry. Okay, so under blocks you'll see this one right here, the pending game. If you see a light blue on your calendar when you're blocking stuff, if you see a light blue, that means that I've already assigned you a game. You just don't know what it is yet. I haven't released it. I haven't published it to you yet. I typically like to go at least a week. Like I'll assign from Monday through Saturday, the whole week's games, and then release them. Okay, that's usually what I like to do. So you might see that. You might see a light blue where I've already assigned you a game for a Monday, and you're in there on you're in there trying to block that date, and I haven't released it yet. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If that's the case, again, shoot me an email. Hey, I see that I have a pending game for this date. I have to block it because I have such and such. Okay, all right, that's all you got to do, and then I'll take you off of it. Okay, all right. Okay, good. So, and then again, I already said this, but letter C, declines and turnbacks are the worst possible thing you could do unless it's an emergency. Okay, if you decline or turn back a game for a non-emergency, I have a fine in place of $5 per game. Now that could really add up, especially if you're scheduled for 7 or 8 games on a Saturday. Okay, now I'm not super hard on this. Like I don't want to do this. I don't want to fine anybody. I don't want to take anybody's money. If I've only had to do this, I can count on one hand over the last 25 years how many times I've actually had to fine someone. Okay, and some people in this room have graciously said, hey, I know I got to turn this game back. You're probably going to fine me. That's fine. And have I ever fined you? Probably not. Okay, that's the thing. So I don't want to do that. I can count on one hand how many times I've done it, and it's for someone that abuses it. Okay, and those people that abuse it, I can tell you this also, they no longer work for me. Okay, so if you abuse it, it's not just going to be a fine. It's going to be, I'm sorry, but I can't use you because I'm asking you to do something simple, block your calendar and communicate with me. Those two things, if you can't do those two things, then I really can't work with you. Okay, I just can't use you. So that's the point there. So let me just say the fine's in place, but I'm not going to do that unless it's a problem. Okay, and if it gets to that point, then it's a problem. Okay, so there you go. Okay, all right. Any more questions on Arbiter or assignments before we move to communication? James.
Is the fee for returning officials and first-year officials, is that per sport or is that just for the year?
Per sport. The fee is per sport. Yeah. So for the video. Sorry. Okay. All right. And that includes, and I don't have them today, but I will have the newest this year's rule books for everyone. So you register with Breakaway Sports, you're going to get a rule book and a case book as well. Okay, unless you're already a part of the public the South Carolina High School League or something, and you already have a book. Okay, so you will get that as well. That includes that. It also includes, if you're registered with SCISA, which we'll get to here in a minute, a liability policy. As an official, you'll get a general liability policy. So if you get assaulted or something like that, or if you get hurt, there's the potential to draw from that. Okay, all right, through SCISA, which is the South Carolina Independent Schools Association. So you are. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, all right, communication. So again, we've talked about this a little bit, but there's different people, different ways that you have to communicate. With me, An email is always at the top of the list, the best way to communicate with me. Anytime you have any kind of payment issues, whether it's from me or from a school, an email should always come to me. Okay, you should always send me an email. Do not text me and tell me that you were shorted $10 from XYZ school. Do not text me and tell me that. Okay, do not call me and tell me that. Send me an email and say, XYZ school was supposed to pay me $50, they only paid me $40. Okay, that's the way that should work. And then put the date of the game. That's the way that should work. So all payment issues should come through email. Any ejections, any unusual game site situations, that's all 100% email stuff, okay? Then I've got phone call. A phone call is for an emergency situation within 24 hours of a game, okay? If you're running late, if you have an issue at the game site, or if you have something major happen, at the game, and then you need to call me after, like an ejection or something like that, okay? That's when a phone call is in order. Now, I may or may not answer the call, so a follow-up text in that situation is 100% needed as well, okay? Always, especially if I don't answer the phone, always follow up with a text and or an email, okay? Depending on the situation, okay? So that's the kind of the protocol with communication for me. And you cannot over communicate with me, like literally. You cannot email me anything that I will ever turn around and say to you. I got to be careful how I say this because there might be something, but you can email me anything at any time, basketball related, assigning related, payment related, okay? And I will respond to you, and it's okay. You can do it 1,000 times if you want. I really don't care, okay? All right? So just keep that in mind. You cannot over communicate with me. All right. You should also get used to communicating with your partners. This says 24 to 48 hours in advance prior to a game. 48 hours might be a little too much, but the idea is that you should consistently communicate with whoever you're working with for that set of games for the next day, or for if I'm working with Wayne on a Saturday morning, I'm going to shoot Wayne a text probably Friday evening and say, hey, Wayne, we're going to be at XYZ Church, 9 o'clock start. I'll see you there at 8:45. And Wayne is going to then respond back to me and say, I will see you at XYZ Church at 8:45. Boom. That's the way this works, okay? So it doesn't matter who initiates it, but you both should, the entire crew should communicate and respond back and forth, and it should be done every time, okay? There's also pre-game conferences, which we'll get into in a later meeting, in-game and post-game conferences. We'll have a specific meeting set aside for that stuff, okay, as far as communication with your partners. There's also communication on site, okay, for schools and game sites. The biggest thing there is to remain professional at all times, number 3, okay? When you get to a game site, or whether it's a school or a church, whatever it is, you're going to find a gym administrator or an athletic director, someone that's in charge. You're going to let them know you're there. They should, if you're going to a church, you may not, like an actual church for church league games, there may not be a place for you to change or anything like that, or an extra room. But if you're going to a school, there should be some place for you privately to change and, get ready to go out to the court, okay? So you're going to want to talk to that gym administrator, find that room, okay? Go to the room, if you change your shoes, change your, if you're wearing, coming straight from work, whatever you need to do, okay? In that room. The other thing is if you're paid on site, which a few schools pay on site, we'll get into paying here in just a minute, then you're going to want, it's okay to ask for that. Like if you know that the school pays on site, you've been there before, whatever the case is, then ask. Hey, I know you typically pay on site. Can I just go ahead and get that from you now so that I don't have to bug you after the game? It's really what you want to do. And it's just as simple as the way I said it, okay? I don't want to have to bug you after the game because you never know how the game's going to go, okay? They might not like you after the game. So literally you have a tough game and you haven't been paid and you know they pay on site, and then you have to go up to the AD and say, excuse me, Mr. AD, but I just screwed your team, but I want my money. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, if that offends you, I apologize, but I didn't know how else to say that, okay? So the point is get your money before if you can, okay? That way you don't have to worry about that after, because it can be awkward, okay? All right, so it's okay to ask if you know they pay on site. If they don't give it to you right away, don't make a huge deal about it. Like, don't press it. You can ask again, like at halftime or whatever. Hey, I know you were pretty busy when I first came in before the game, so you weren't able to get that check for me, but would you mind grabbing that now? That's okay too, okay? Again, that's perfectly fine, okay? But remain professional, be kind, be gracious when you're asking, and if you don't get it and they do typically pay on site, that's when you would send me an email and say, hey, I know they normally pay on site. I wasn't able to get it for whatever reason. Can you follow up? And what I do is, again, you put the date and the time of the game, where you were, and I will forward that to the school and say, hey, can you drop this in the mail, please? Okay? So that's how that works as far as that. Okay? Again, remain professional no matter what when you're at the school sites communicating with school representatives and so on. Last one is coaches, which we'll get into this more in another meeting as well. This is kind of a basic outline of how to communicate with the coach, but we'll spend another meeting talking specifically about communication with coaches, okay, and on-floor communication. All right, any questions about that before we keep going here? Trying to move along quickly here so we stay on time. Everybody's good. All right, good. Okay, uniform. So we skipped the volleyball because we're going into basketball here. So everybody can see basketball at the top there, okay? All right. So you have every game I assign. Okay, so in winter season now. Follow me here. Because I assign games in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall. So if you're working a basketball game for me in the spring, summer, or fall, you can wear shorts. Okay? But every winter game from November to March, you need to wear pants. Black, all black, dress pants. They make officiating pants specific. So I would recommend you buy a pair of officiating pants from an officiating website. Okay? Primarily black athletic shoes. You can have some, this is a little too much white probably. I mean, I got a couple guys that, I won't say who they are, but I got a couple guys that wear shoes like this when they officiate. It's not the end of the world, okay? But I'd rather the bottom be black, and I don't mind if you have a Nike swoosh or the white Adidas stripes or whatever. Primarily black. There can be some white on it or gray or something like that, but not too much color, okay? With the shoes, of course, you should wear black socks. You should please wear black socks, and high enough to where you're not showing your skin if your pants flops up on you, okay? I've seen it all, okay? So you wear some, some mid-thigh black socks, please, all right? A Fox 40 whistle should be black unless you're wearing the Breakaway shirt, which I'll get to here in a minute. And if you use a lanyard, that should be black as well, okay? You don't have to use a lanyard for me. I don't care. You can go without a lanyard. I go without a lanyard. I haven't reffed with a lanyard in 20 years. So, okay. Any undergarments, like your compression shirt, compression shorts or pants, those should all be dark in color and not, if they are a different color than black, they should not be seen. But you probably don't want them seen anyway, even if, just, again, tuck them in, keep, this is all in here because over the years, I've had officials who have worn neon yellow undershirts, and you can see it under their referee shirt, it's sticking out, okay? Or even a white undershirt, whatever it is, okay? We need to, we need to not draw attention to ourselves in that way, okay? So let's keep everything basic there as much as we can, okay? And then your shirt, which is the last point here, letter C, one of the last points for uniform. There's two different shirts for Skiza. And I didn't bring in the Breakaway shirt. Many of you already have it. But I have a Breakaway designed shirt, okay? It's red, white, and blue. It's patriotic. Let me tell you this, though. It's not a Trump shirt. That was for the video, just saying. All right? But it is red, white, and blue because that's my colors for my logo, and I'm a patriotic person, okay? So I'm sorry. I've just had some people tell me over the years that they won't work for me because the shirt is a Trump shirt, and that's not what it is. I just had to say that. I'm sorry. Okay, but it is red, white, and blue. Okay, so it's a little different than what the traditional shirt's gonna look like. It's still striped, red and white stripes, and it's got blue sleeves. Okay, so blue short sleeves, and it's got a flag on one side and my logo on the other. That's the Breakaway shirt. You'll get one of those if you don't already have one. But you'll also want to have, along with that, a traditional black and white striped V-neck shirt. Okay, not the South Carolina High School League shirt, and not the NCAA men's or women's shirt. Okay, a traditional is the thinner black and white stripes. Okay, not the high school league has the thicker ones, and they have the black shoulder sleeves. Okay, the traditional has nothing contrasting on the black on the shoulders. It's all just a thin, like 1 inch, I think, black and white striped shirt. I don't mind if you have the side panels on the side. That's fine. But other than that, it should just be that the thinner black and white striped shirt, and that's for Skeeza games. Okay, so again, I'll tell you what schools are Skeeza and what schools aren't, but you have to wear a black and white shirt, a traditional black and white shirt for anything Skeeza. Every other game, I want you to wear the Breakaway shirt if you can. Okay, but I want you to carry both shirts with you wherever you go. That's the idea. Carry the Breakaway shirt, carry the black and white shirt. That way, when you get to a gym with your partner, this is what I would do with Wayne. If I'm going back to my communication with Wayne, I didn't say this, but I would also say, hey, Wayne, when we're at this church tomorrow, we're going to wear the Breakaway shirt. Okay? Boom. He's already ready for it. Now, I'm still going to bring both shirts because he might forget it, whatever, okay? I'm still going to have both shirts with me, but he's already, ready for the Breakaway shirt because I've communicated that with him through text before, okay? So, bring both shirts.
One question.
Okay?
Skeeza team plays a SCAX team, then we're going to go with the home team.
Yes, that's correct. If you're at a SCAC school, you can wear the Breakaway shirt if you want to wear the Breakaway shirt, even if it's a Skeeza school playing them. That's correct. That's correct.
Skeeza games only.
Skeeza home games only. Yes, any Skeeza school at their school, black and white striped.
Even if it's against the SCAX team.
Correct.
What
Yep.
do you consider a scat team?
I'll go through this. Well, I'll go through the schools here. I'll tell you what the Skeeza schools are, so you can make note of what the Skeeza schools are, and then anything else is open for Breakaway. Okay, for the Breakaway shirt. We'll get to that in a minute. We got to keep moving here. We're getting behind a little bit. Okay. If you wear a jacket, I have a Breakaway jacket that I can order for you. It's a $55 fee, but it's a very nice jacket. You can do the full zip or the quarter zip. If you want one of those, you just let me know. I can order that for you and get it before the season. If not, I prefer you don't wear a jacket or like just a plain black jacket. Okay. I don't want. So I like to be. I don't want to identify with another organization. So I reference like the South Carolina High School League a lot because they're the main other organization, and some of you work for them, and that's fine. It's okay. I don't care. But I don't want to wear their stuff. So I don't want you to wear a South Carolina High School League shirt. I don't want you to wear a South Carolina High School League jacket for games that I assign you for. Okay? So just keep that in mind. All right? Okay. I'm going to skip over the hair, facial hair. You can read that later. Dress before and after games. I'm going to skip over that. Your general appearance, we're going to skip over that. Okay? You'll have all that stuff when you have this in hand next week. Okay? We're going into fees now. Again, we're going to skip volleyball. All right, basketball fees. Now, this is for your game fee here to start is for school games. Okay? So what we have is we have $55 for a varsity game. So if you work a varsity doubleheader, it's 55 times 2. Okay? If you work a sub-varsity game, middle school, JV, it's $40 per game. Okay? So if you work a sub-varsity doubleheader, It's 40 times 2. Plus, for school games only, you get a travel fee of 50 cents per mile, and that's round trip. That's why it's important to have your address in Arbiter, okay? Because Arbiter calculates that. I don't calculate that. That would take way too long if I was calculating that. Back in the day, before Arbiter, assigners did calculate all that. No. Anyway, Arbiter does it for you. So you're going to get 50 cents per mile, and that's round trip, okay, with a minimum of $10. So if Wayne and I are going to this school that we're 5 minutes from, then we're only going to get $10 for travel. But if we're going to a school that's an hour away, whatever that mileage is, we're going to get paid all that round trip. Okay, so if it's 50 miles one way, that's $100. So I'm going to get $50 in travel plus my game fees. Okay, all right, which is very possible for some of the schools that I assign. They're all over. We're all over the place. Okay, we're in the upstate, fully in the upstate. We have schools in pretty much every county in the upstate. So you can get some pretty significant travel. All right, and then clock is the last one. If you work a clock, I do assign clock for St. Joseph's Catholic School, and possibly Mitchell Road, Brazier Middle College out in Simpsonville. I started their clock last year. So I've got a few schools that I assign clocks for. If you're doing a sub-varsity game, it's $30. If you're doing a varsity game, it's $35, plus just a flat $10 travel fee. And I'm going to try to keep you close to where you live on that. Like, I'm not going to ask Scott, who lives in Clemson, to go to Spartanburg to run a clock for $40. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to ask James, who's at Bob Jones, to go to St. Joe's, which is 10 minutes down the road for James. Okay, I'm going to do that as much as I can, or I'm going to allow you to what I call, if you want to say, double dip, which means that you might ref a game, in a place close by, or in the same place potentially, but usually it's going to be at another place, and then maybe come over to St. Joe's or wherever and keep a clock. So your travel isn't as far. You're getting paid travel to your ref assignment, and then does that make sense? Okay, so that's the way I try to do that. All right, and then we have church leagues, which is letter C. Okay, church league fees is different. Okay, no travel fee for church league. And again, I try to keep you as close as I can. Every once in a while, I'll ask someone to go a little bit farther, especially if there's multiple games, which there usually is for church league. Okay, so you don't get a travel fee, but you're going to get, the fees have gone up slightly for this. And again, you'll have this next week, but for the real young kids with only one ref, you're getting $25. Usually those games are less than 45 minutes in time. Okay, all right. And then you have the next level up, actually from 3rd grade up to 8th grade, is going to be $30 a game. Okay, and then the high school age kids in church league play is $34, which went up this year. And then adults went up as well. It's $36. Men, adult women or men. I have women and men's leagues that I assign. It's $36 a game for those. Okay. All right, and then the last thing on pay is how do you get paid? So letter D up here at the top says some schools pay on site, which I've already mentioned. A couple send you pay through the mail. The majority will be paid through me, okay, through Breakaway payroll, if you want to say it that way, okay? All right, including any church or rec league game that you get assigned will come through me, okay? A lot of the schools also pay me directly, and then I pay you, so they don't have to worry about cutting a check for every game or mailing it or anything like that. It just helps them. It's a service that I offer them, okay? With my payroll, it's on a 2-week cycle, beginning with the first Monday of the season, which I can't really tell you what that is right now. I can give you an idea. So it's probably going to be like beginning with November 10th, okay? It depends on, as I start getting games, like schools sending me games and assignments and stuff, when they actually start games. It may be the 17th, but the idea is from that first Monday, every 2 weeks, okay? Every 2 weeks. So it's going to go from Monday to 2 weeks to the following Sunday is when the cutoff ends, and then I will pay you on that Monday, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? And then I pay you through digital means. I pay you through PayPal. That's the preferred method. Let me tell you, and let me take a minute here with this, because I can pay you through Zelle. I can pay you through Venmo. I cannot pay you through Cash App because my Cash App account was shut down. Okay, Venmo is at the bottom of the list because they have limits. Zelle is second, like in the middle, and then PayPal is at the top. Here's why. PayPal is number one because I don't have to send you a 1099. If I pay you on PayPal, I don't send you a 1099. It's completely your responsibility and your choice. I'm not going to be a tax attorney here or a tax advisor, but it's your choice whether you claim that income or not. There is a paper trail for it, but it's still your choice. Okay? I'm not sending you a 1099 for PayPal. So from my perspective, PayPal is the best way to pay you. Okay? And then you take care of the tax however you want to take care of it. Hang on. Okay? With Zelle, if I pay you with Zelle, I have to send you a 1099. So you're making me grumpy if I pay. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, not really. But I have to take the extra step to send you a 1099 for Zelle, which is fine. Zelle is an option because Zelle has high enough limits to where I can't pay everybody with PayPal. I understand that. So, and a lot of people have Zelle through their bank. Okay? So it's an easy way to pay people. And so I will do that. But I will send you a 1099 at the end of the year for everything that I've sent you through Zelle, just so you know, as long as it's above, I think it's $600 threshold. Okay? All right? And Venmo is at the bottom only because Venmo has limits. I don't have to send you a 1099 for Venmo either. Okay? But Venmo cuts me off. Like if I pay 100 people with Venmo, I won't be able to pay 100 people with Venmo. I will only be able to pay probably 50 of them, and then the other 50 I got to pay some other way. So again, PayPal is if you're using PayPal, that's the best. It's a free account. If you don't have it, it's free to set up. You can link your bank account to it, your bank information to it, and transfer it straight into your bank. There's no, it's very easy to use, and it doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't cost me anything. Okay? So that's preferred, but those other options are available as well. Now, Lizzie, you had a question.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. Just make sure that there are some schools that will pay through Arbiter.
Oh, yes, and I didn't put this in here. So Arbiter Pay, you saw at the beginning when I showed you the Arbiter website, my Arbiter Pay balance. There are a couple, thank you, that will pay through Arbiter Pay. So, and St. Joe's Clock is one of them. Who else pays through Arbiter Pay?
I believe Spartanburg.
Spartanburg Day School. Spartanburg Day School does. Okay, so there's a couple. So Arbiter Pay is linked to Arbiter Sports, but it's a separate account, which you have to set up separately. Okay, you have to basically create a profile, username and password, and then it connects. If you use the same email, it connects to your Arbiter account. Okay. All right, so I would recommend you use the same email that you have for Arbiter, okay? And you can connect it, and then so what happens is Spartanburg. You go to Spartanburg Day. Spartanburg Day. The next day will submit payment for that, and it'll be in your Arbiter Pay account, which is similar to PayPal in the fact that you have to transfer it. You have different options. But typically, you just transfer it to your bank account. I link my bank account to it and just transfer it to my bank account. You can also get a debit card with Arbiter Pay. Just like with PayPal, I think you can get a debit card as well. So anything that comes in on that payment, source, you can just have a debit card. It's like a prepaid card. If you have a $200 balance on there, you can go to the store and spend up to $200, right? Okay, everybody follow me there. You know how that works. So yes, thank you for that. Arbiter Pay is definitely a payment option for a couple schools. Any other questions on payment? Good. You guys are a great crowd. Okay, schools. All right, and again, I'm only gonna stick with the SCISA schools here. I don't have them listed out which ones are SCISA schools, but I'm gonna tell you. Okay? And then if you forget or whatever throughout the season and you need to know who's, what's skis and what's not for the shirt, to know what shirt to wear, you can email me and ask me. Okay? But skis schools, there's only a few. Okay? You have in Spartanburg, you have Spartanburg Day School, you have Spartanburg Christian Academy, you have Oak Brook Prep. All right? In Greenville, you have Shannon Forest Christian Academy, or they're now called First Presbyterian Academy. I still call them Shannon Forest, and your assignment will say Shannon Forest, but they are technically called First Pres. Okay? And in Lawrence, you got Lawrence Academy. In Anderson, you've got Anderson Christian. Who am I missing? Am I missing any skis at schools? Oh, in Greenville also, Our Lady of the Rosary. Thank you. Okay, those are skis at schools. I'm pretty sure that's it. So those are the only schools that you're required to wear a black and white shirt at.
Someone said Anderson Christian Skaggs this year.
No, Anderson Christian is still Skiza. They're playing Skiza and Skaggs, I believe.
Okay.
But they're still in Skiza, so yeah. Okay, so those are the Skiza schools. Those are the ones you're required to wear black and white shirts for. Everything else, Skaggs schools, so Skiza is South Carolina Independent Schools Association, which is who you're certified through. I'm a whatever you want to call it. I'm the director in the upstate for the South Carolina Independent Schools Association, the official director. So you're getting certified and have that state certification through the South Carolina Independent Schools Association. It's just like being certified through the South Carolina High School League as far as the benefits that you get, which is the liability insurance and the rule books, right? Okay, and training. All right.
What about Mitchell Road and those, not Mitchell Road?
Anything else is either independent or part of SCACS, which is the South Carolina Association of Christian Schools. They're in their own organization, but they don't state certify referees or anything like that. So they're treated more independently. Does that make sense? Because they're not required, like SCISA schools are required to book through me. I have to book all SCISA schools. But SCACS does not have to do that. There's some SCACS schools that use other assigners. Okay? So anyway, so that's how that works.
Home schools too, right?
And home schools are independent as well. Yeah, they can use other assigners. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So that's how that works. All right. All right. Good. So we're good on schools as far as that's concerned. Let's go on. I'm going to skip most of this. Well, I'm under game day. Okay. The biggest thing here, of course, is, well, there's several things. Plan ahead on travel, especially in the afternoons. You know how traffic is around here. Okay. It's getting worse and worse. So you got to plan ahead. And part of that is making sure that your arbiter calendar is blocked based on your work schedule and stuff, okay? It's because I expect you to be on site for a school game 30 minutes before. Now, I understand there's going to be some variation on that based on, basically I might say to Larry, "Hey Larry, I know you got your calendar blocked till 4:00, but I really need you to go to this school for a 4:00 game. Can you do that this one time?" And Larry would say to me, maybe, "Well, I've got a meeting or I've got work until 3:30, so I won't be able to get there 30 minutes before." I would simply say to Larry, "I don't have anybody else, Larry. You get there when you can get there." Does that make sense? Okay. Now that's not going to happen all the time. Unless we have that conversation, I give you an assignment for a 4:00 start, I expect you to be there at 3:30. Okay? Unless we have the conversation otherwise. All right? So just keep that in mind. School games 30 minutes prior, 15 minutes prior for rec league or church league games. Al, did you want to say something?
Yeah, a lot of these schools they have 3 games lined up, and by the time
Yep.
we get there for a 4 or a 5:00 game, the second, let's say that's the third game or the second, they're just starting the game and we're sitting there for an hour. I just wish there was some way the schools would you know, realize that we have a game time, let's fit that game time. I've been to, schools before, 5 o'clock game, second game or first games aren't just started, and, you know, I'm sitting there for an hour.
Which, okay, so part of that is, yeah, I see what you're saying. So, so there's various reasons for that. It could be that the visiting team was late arriving and they couldn't start until 4:30.
Right.
Okay, which we try to be as flexible as we can with stuff like that. Okay, so part of that would be the official reaching out to me and saying, hey, 4 o'clock game, but the visiting school is running behind, or we're starting this game at 4:15 or 4:30 because of this reason, okay? And then, you know, it kind of puts the onus on me, which I may or may not do, depending on where I am, because I might be reffing myself, okay, to let someone like you know who might be coming for a later game, okay?
For example, Anderson Christian is notorious for that.
It's-
you get there for your game at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Some of that is unavoidable, Al. I mean, you know, and you know it is. It's just,
Well, it happens every time at Anderson Christian.
Well,
for some reason.
well, I will try to have a conversation with Anderson Christian then about that. But it's a lot of that's unavoidable. Just, I mean, if you're, you know, like if you're coming in to work the varsity game, I mean, I've been there, I've done it. You know, it's just part of the deal. Like if you're coming in to work the varsity game and there's, you know, middle school games before, the middle school games are tough to officiate and they might take a long time, you know, because I'm not the kind of assigner official, don't want my officials like not blowing whistles and letting the games get out of hand. So I want you to keep the games under control, which sometimes requires a lot of whistles. Okay, that's fine. However, you know, it's just part of it's the nature of the business. You know, it says it's 7 o'clock game time, but it may be 7:30 before you start because you just had 2 really tough games, and it's, you know, but part of that also is communication. So like, for instance, if I've got 2 officials on a middle school game and a third official coming in for a varsity game, which happens sometimes, typically I'll have the same 2 officials probably working the middle school games and the varsity game. So that middle school official can communicate with you if you're the third official coming in for varsity and say, hey, we're running behind. Or you can text them and say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, are you guys on schedule? You know, let me know, kind of thing. So it's kind of a two-way street there. All right. Okay, so plan ahead, communicate with your partners, especially if you're running late to an assignment. Like, so if Wayne and I have a game, you know, we talked on Friday night, okay, to confirm, and then Saturday morning, something happens, like, you know, I wake up late or I'm stuck in traffic or whatever the case might be. I'm gonna call Wayne and I'm gonna say, hey Wayne, just FYI, I am not gonna be there at 8:45. I'm gonna be coming in hot at like 8:55 or maybe right at 9 o'clock because, you know, whatever. Okay? Or I'm gonna be there at 9:15. Okay, and so then Wayne would go to the gym director, AD, whatever, and say, listen, my partner's running late in traffic, you know, had an emergency, whatever it is, okay? So what, you know, do you want me to start by myself? If you're comfortable to start by yourself, I'm okay with that. If you're not, that's the decision that you have to make, okay? They may want you to start by yourself, but if you're not comfortable doing that, then I would say you don't necessarily have to do that, but you can and you should if you're comfortable with it, okay? Especially if it's just a few minutes, if your partner's just going to be a few minutes late. Keep everything on time for, you know, people like Al that like to keep things on time. Sorry. I like to pick on Al. So
25 minutes.
all right, so you get the idea. Just communicate, okay? Once you get there, and part of the reason why I want you there ahead of time is because letter D, you want to make sure you review and familiarize yourself with league rules, especially in church league, rec league. Every league is going to have different rules. Now, if you go to a school, if you're assigned a school game, which is sanctioned by, you know, it might be SCISA, it might be SCACS, but it's all under National Federation of High School rules, right? Okay? So all the rules are pretty much the same for schools or homeschool groups or traditional schools. So you're not going to have to necessarily do that at a school, but for these rec and church leagues, you're definitely going to have to do that. You're going to have to get there a few minutes early so that you can make sure that you know kind of the rules for each age group, different things, timing of the games, all those kinds of things, okay? And then also to have a pregame with your partner. So, Wayne and I arrive at 8:45. Wayne and I may have worked together 100 times. And if we have, that's fine. We don't have to have a super long, even if we haven't worked together, you don't have to have a super long pregame conference. But it is important to have to make sure that Wayne and I are on the same page on some basic things before the game, okay? So that we have some consistency. We will get into that kind of thing in another meeting, okay? But we need to have that conference before the game. All right? Other expectations, we're almost done here with this, so let me finish out and then I'll finish with any questions or comments on this before we move on, okay? Facility reports, this is more for volleyball, but it still could be for basketball too. There have been schools in the past that we go to where the backboards do not have, for instance, they do not have padding on the sides and the bottom, okay? If that's the case, if there's something that's clearly in the rules as a safety issue or something like that, then it needs to be brought to my attention, okay? So, and the way you do that is to take a picture of it and email it to me. Now, you won't have to do that very often with basketball, okay? But there may be a time when you have to do it, so be prepared to do that. When you walk into a gym, if you've never been in the gym before, look around. Look around, okay? One of the first things I do when I walk in a gym is see where the benches are located. You know why? Because I don't want the chairs or the benches to be right next to the table. There should be separation between the table and the benches, okay? Ideally, and this should be the case in just about any school you go in, this should be the case. But ideally, we want the bench, the first chair, to start at the 28-foot mark and go down toward the end line, okay? On both sides. So I don't have a court to show you right here, but you can visualize that in your mind, and we'll talk about that more in some of our in other meetings, okay, stuff like that. But the point is you walk into a gym, you see something that's a safety hazard, or that I can address with these schools that needs to be fixed, like the benches or something like that. Take a picture and send it to me, and I'll address it. But if I don't know about it, I can't address it. Okay? What happens is one official goes, they don't say anything, they don't take a picture, they don't tell me. Another official goes and says, well, this, I'm talking to the AD now, and they've already had 3 home games, and I tell the AD, well, look, you should move the first chair should be at the 28-foot line, okay, going down. Or, I notice you don't have padding on your backboard or whatever it is, okay? Well, this is our 3rd home game, and no one said that to me. Well, that's weird because someone should have said it to you, okay? So we need to be a little better with that across the board, be more consistent with that kind of stuff. All right, so that's a facility report. More importantly, though, is an ejection report. Now, I don't need an email for a simple technical foul, okay? I don't need that. You can send it to me if you want, because I said you can never over-communicate, so you can send that to me, but I don't need an email for a technical foul. I need, let me say this 100,000 times, as loud as I can, I need, in capital letters, an emailed ejection report. If there's an ejection in your game, any game, you eject someone, player or coach, okay? You have to send me an email. You have to. And it has to be sent, ideally with that night. Like if you have a game that evening, before you go to bed, look, I get it. Some people, get up early to go to work. You don't really want to do it, but this is part of being a referee. If you want to be a referee and make money, this is part of being a referee. I've had this conversation at nausea with people, asking them to send me emails, and they're like, well, I couldn't do it last night because I had to get up early for work. Well, then they're at work and they can't do it at work because they can't access their email or they don't have time or whatever it is. I may never get the email from them. That's not good, okay? So the point is please, this is something that you have to do. Now, I don't want you to have to eject anybody, but the reality is you're probably going to have to eject someone at some point, okay? So if you do, I need an email, and I need it as quickly as possible, all right? And then you can see here what it says in regards to the email. Again, you'll have this in hand next week, but make sure the email has the information that's needed only, not your opinion, okay? The details by rule, what you did, the facts, no opinion, and write it as clearly as possible because guess what? That email is going straight to the AD. It should go straight to the AD. Now, I've gotten emails before that are almost impossible to understand. And what I've had to do is I've had to fix the email, okay? I've had to edit the email based on the phone call that I had with the same official. Okay, I don't really want to do that. I mean, I can and I will, because like it looks really bad on you. Like if I would forward some of these ADs an email straight from some officials, they'd be like, we don't ever want this official back. This official's not professional. They don't know how to communicate. That's a problem. Okay, seriously, communication is huge in life. Okay, it's even more important in officiating. So you need to learn how to communicate effectively. So I'm big on this kind of stuff. Anything communication related, I'm big on. Okay? So make sure you do that. Make sure it's clearly and effectively communicated if you send me an email with an ejection. All right? Know the rules. That's letter C down there. Always be studying. Okay? Just because you come to every meeting, you know, and do all the scrimmages and all that kind of stuff, I carry a rule books with me to every game. I have the rule book with me. So if I have a play in the first half and I go into the locker room or into the changing room at halftime with my partner and we have a play and you know, we talk about the play. Like hey, what'd you see on this play? And if I need to reference the rule book, I have it, you know. Well, you know what? I'm not so sure what the rule book says about that specific situation. Take your rule book with you and reference it, okay? All right? And I've even done that and had to go back out to a coach in the second half and say, you know what? I looked in the rule book and I was wrong. Or I was right, you know, because a lot of times the coach will be like, well, you're wrong on that, okay? You know, I'm not saying to go initiate a I was right conversation with a coach after the fact, but if you got it wrong, you should. I would, okay? It happens. We're human, okay? So anyway, the point is always be studying, always be learning, carry your book with you, know the rules, be engaged in your games, don't pass on obvious plays, ignore obvious rules violations, no matter what kind of game it is. And then letter E is be open to feedback and criticism from me and from your partners, okay? If you're not open to feedback and criticism, you'll never be a good official. You'll never be a good official. You have to be willing to accept criticism. Okay? Whether you agree or not is a completely different conversation. And we might talk about this more in another meeting as far as how to handle stuff like that. But generally speaking, you need to be open and receptive to it, listen to it. If you don't agree, you don't need to get in a verbal fight with someone, especially on court. Don't ever do that, okay? Do not ever get in a verbal confrontation with your partners on court. Never. That's bad. That's really bad, okay? So anyway, all right? Good. Mentor program I'll leave alone. You can read that later. In conclusion, so these are the biggest things. In my mind, these are the biggest things that are important. If you can check the box on these 5 things, man, you're going to get like any game that I can give you. You're going to be at the top of my list. I'm going to love you. You're going to make a lot of money because I have a lot of games to assign. Okay, and you're going to be good. And you probably, if you can really excel at these 5 things, then you have opportunity to go higher levels too, and I can help with that as well. But those are good. So you have availability, which starts with your arbiter, blocking calendars, all that kind of stuff. Dependability, which is accepting your assignments if it's not blocked, being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, on time, 30 minutes ahead, whatever. Okay. Adaptability is kind of what we talked about with I'm adapting to with my partners in my environment. I have a little grace at times. I'm listening. I'm learning. Accountability is when I have a conversation with you, and say, look, you messed up. You messed up on this rule, this play, this game, whatever it was. In your communication, you messed up. Okay. Having that accountability. Okay. And saying, yes, I did mess up, and I will strive to do better. That's where accountability comes into play. And then, of course, the last one, which is, these are all equally important in my opinion, but you have to have the ability too. Like, you have to actually know how to get out there and blow the whistle and look the part and all that as well. So those are all important. Okay. All right. And then you can see there the contract, which again, you'll have this next week in hand and be able to give that to me. But that's what the contract looks like in essence. Okay. Any questions before we dive in for about 15 minutes on the new rules? Anything? Awesome. Okay. So I'm gonna shut this off, get out of Arbiter, shut my computer off, and we're gonna take just 10-15 minutes to talk about the new rules. Okay. So really, and this is again National Federation of High School. This is there's only one big one. There's other ancillary rule changes. I'm not big, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not big on I really don't care about rules that have to do with your uniform and stuff like that. I really don't care. And I don't care if you don't care. I really don't care. As long as they have numbers on the front and back of the jersey for school games, okay? Numbers, and obviously contrasting color, same color for each member of the team, and then the other team has a contrasting color. The 1-inch seam and the manufacturer's logo and all these things that a lot of referees get hung up on. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make you a good referee. It doesn't make you a good referee because in the rule book that the number 5 can only be 2 inches by 4 inches or whatever it is. I have no idea. Okay, no, that does not make you a good referee. And it makes you a really bad referee if you actually go to the player or the coach and the team and say that uniform is illegal because the number inch is not correct. Okay, I mean, I'm just saying and I know we don't have a lot of people like that, but we do have some. Okay, so don't get bogged down with stuff like that. It's in the rule book because the teams need to have guidelines for uniforms. Okay, but as officials, that is not our number one responsibility. Okay, uniform stuff is not our number one responsibility. Getting plays right on the court is our number one responsibility. Okay, all right. So anyway, so some of the rules are going to do with deal with uniforms, stuff like that. Give me a second here to get to this page. All right, good. Okay, so I'm going to read this basically from Referee Magazine. I'm going to start with rule changes, and if we have time, we'll go into points of emphasis. Okay, so the biggest rule change has to do with goaltending, which again, I said this at the beginning. If you're working youth games, you're probably not going to have to worry about goaltending. Some of our high school teams, especially boys, varsity teams, you will. You need to know the rule regardless, okay? Even as a new official, when you're only going to work little kids games or whatever it is, okay, you still need to know the rule. But you may or may not have to use it in a game, okay? But here's the thing. With goaltending, the biggest change is there's more to it than this, but I'm gonna put it into a nutshell. it used to be if a ball was, the old rule was if the ball was on its upward flight, okay, with a chance to go in, if it was touched by either the offense or the defensive team, it was considered goaltending or basket interference. There's a difference. There's a slight difference, but one or another, it was considered illegal. Okay. So now the rule has changed. The biggest part of the rule change is it's more like the NCAA. If the ball is still, it could still be on its way up, but if it's hit the backboard, if the ball has touched the backboard, it's now off limits. So if a defensive player swats the ball away, once the ball has hit the backboard, even if it's still on its upward flight and outside the cylinder, it's now considered goaltending. Okay? That's the biggest change. So you could see that. I mean, you know, that was one. And the other one is the slapping of the backboard. Okay? So I'm going to read this from Referee Magazine on this one. Okay? It's under Player Technical Rule Book. If you have a rule book, it's Rule 10, Section 4, Article 4B, and basket interference, Rule 4, Section 6, Article 1A. Okay? It is no longer a player technical foul if a player intentionally slaps or strikes the backboard or causes the ring to vibrate while a try or tap for field goal is in flight or is touching the backboard or is in the basket or in the cylinder above the basket. Is no longer a technical foul. So let me stop right there. So again, last year's rule, and there's a little more to it here. So last year's rule was if I were to go up and attempt to block a shot and my hand hits the backboard, and as the referee judged it that it was a legitimate attempt to block the shot but still hit the backboard, it could be nothing. It could be a no call, okay? Because I judged, as the referee, that player hitting the backboard was a legitimate attempt to try to block the ball, okay? Now, on the other hand, if I judge that a player just goes up and slaps the backboard with it not being a legitimate attempt to block the ball, last year's rule was it was a technical foul. Okay? Last year's rule was it was a technical foul. It's no longer a technical foul. Instead, a change has been made to state it is basket interference. So if you judge, again, last year you judge intentionally slapped the backboard with no intent to block the ball. Last year, technical foul. This year, basket interference. Automatically. Player goes up, slaps the backboard, ball's up there. Ball has a chance to go in, ball's in the cylinder, ball's hit the backboard, it's up there anywhere close. They slap the backboard, it's basket interference. So you're going to blow your whistle immediately and you're going to score 2 points. That's it. Okay? All right? The rationale for the rule change is that it no longer requires officials to judge intent on plays and instead allows them to consider how this action impacts the ball and provides a fair resolution in such situations. So, and we've been there. If you've officiated before, we've been in situations where a player goes up to and slaps the backboard, and it's kind of very possibly it could have affected the ball going in, right? Whereas before we had to judge whether it was intentional or a play on the ball. Now if they hit the backboard, it's basket interference, because if that ball has a chance to go in, we're going to automatically, it takes it away, if that makes sense, okay? Does everybody understand that? I'm going to give you a play. I'm going to give you 2 plays, actually. So play 1, A1 releases a try attempt near the basket. B2 jumps and swings an arm, making a legitimate attempt to block the try. B2 misses the ball and makes contact with the backboard while the ball is above the cylinder. Ruling, this is basket interference. award the goal to A1, and Team B receives a non-designated spot throw-in along the end line. Which a non-designated spot means, what does that mean? It's a spot throw-in, so they don't have the run. Sorry, I don't know what non-designated spot means, but anyway, it's a spot throw-in on the end line, okay? Basket interference. Even though he made a legitimate attempt to block the shot, he hit the backboard, it's basket interference, okay? Play number 2. A1 releases a try attempt on the right side of the basket. B2 goes up on the left side of the basket and slaps the backboard. So clearly, no attempt to block the ball. He just being a knucklehead, okay? All right. Slaps the backboard on the left side while the ball is airborne but not on its downward flight, nor is it within the cylinder above the basket. Ruling. This is a player technical foul, okay? So does everybody understand the difference? There was, in play 2, play 1, there was a legitimate attempt to block the ball. Play 2, there was no, in your judgment, no legitimate attempt. It's just unsporting. It's being moved into an unsporting category, okay? So that's an unsporting technical foul because he's just being, like I said, he's just being a knucklehead. Does everybody understand that? Any questions? No? Okay, good. All right, okay, the other thing that's changed is on goaltending is the definition of goaltending has been revised to state that it occurs when a defensive player commits any of the acts previously associated with goaltending on a try tap for goal. By removing the offensive team from this violation, players and officials do not need to determine whether the ball in flight toward the basket is a try or a pass. Okay, so now we didn't see this very often, but you can no longer have offensive goaltending. Okay, so if A1, actually there's probably plays here. I'll give you a play here. A1 releases the ball toward Team A's basket. While the ball is above the level of the basket ring and on its downward flight, A2 grabs the ball with 2 hands and dunks it through the basket. Or B3 swats the ball away. Ruling in A, which is A2 grabbing the ball and dunking it, this is a legal play. In B, which is B3 swatting it away, it's goaltending because it's a defense. Offense, defense, okay? So whereas last year, if you felt like the ball was, if you judged the ball to be on its downward flight and within the cylinder, by rule, that offensive player couldn't take it and dunk it in. It was supposed to be offensive goaltending, okay? So that's changed. Any questions on that?
What's the reason for that change?
It's just so we don't, and again, that wasn't called very often. So, but there was some referees that felt like, letter of the law kind of thing. So in my mind, it's a great change because now you can't, it just takes it away. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a basketball play. That's why it was changed, because that's a basketball play. Pass to the rim, offensive player goes and stuffs it in. It's a basketball play. Okay? Now, you could, and if you ever saw it, it was probably on a shot, but it now gives the offense the opportunity to just go ahead and make sure it goes in if they want, So if they can, if they have the ability to do that. I like the change. Yes, James.
So if it's on a rebound, like if it's the rim and the ball's above the cylinder and they tap it.
That's different. That's on a it's only when the ball's in flight from a pass or a shot, initial pass or shot. Once it's hit the rim and if it's still within that cylinder, actually, you know what? That's a good question because I would think that the offensive team could still put it away or dunk it. I wonder if there's a play like that. Let me see. I'm going to have to check on that one, James, because that's actually a good question.
Lizzie's got a good one.
Okay, Lizzie, what you got?
Player A shoots 3.
Okay.
Same team.
A1 shoots a 3, A2.
Grabs it, slams it in.
That's
It was going to go in for 3.
it's
But
according to rule, it's good.
It's 2 points.
But it's 2 points. Correct.
Because
Correct.
2A
Yeah.
dunked it.
Very good. Yep. I'm going to have to check on the rebound one. That's a good one. I'm sure it'll be in the case book. When we get the new case books for this year, it'll probably be in there, but I'll double check on that.
Hey, Tim?
Yes.
Something about a mercy rule this year?
Oh, yes.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, it's 40 points.
Hang on. That's state adoption.
Yeah.
But is there a mercy rule in South Carolina state adoption? I don't.
Somebody told me that they had, what about in Skeeza?
Okay, so there is a mercy rule in Skeeza. The clock will. We don't stop the game. Okay, the clock will continue to run if it's a 40-point lead. But the only stipulation of that is it can't be in the first half at all. So if a team gets up 40 in the first half, it's regular basketball. Clock stops on everything.
I've had a coach come up to me and ask me in the second half, can we leave the clock running?
And that's fine if the other coach agrees to it. Okay, if the other coach agrees to it, I don't care what you do there. But by rule, the Skeeza rules is in the second half. So if it's a 39-point lead, and you start the third quarter, you can't start a quarter unless it's a 40-point or greater lead with a running clock. Does that make sense? So no, that whole third quarter has to be played with the stop clock, even if it gets to 50, 55 points.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it gets to 40, and then it comes back under 40, does it stop?
No, but I just want to make sure everybody understands. In Skeeza, it has to be the start of a quarter at 40 or greater, okay? And you can't. So in that scenario that I told you, where it was 39 points to start the third quarter, even if it gets up to 55 or 60-point gap, it's going to stop. And if it's over 40 to start the fourth, then you would have the running clock, okay, to start the fourth. If it goes below 40, it's going to continue to run. I believe it's 25 is if it you got to get it back to like 25 before it'll stop again.
Is that on the Skeeza website?
Probably not. But that's a Skeeza rule that I was made aware of several years ago, actually. So the mercy rule on that has been in place for a while. But I don't know for sure. Is this
We talked about it our first week that there's a 40-point lead. If they in the second half, it's a running clock. No matter if they go back down to 5-on-5, like 5-point difference.
Really?
It's still a running clock.
Okay.
But the other thing is that during the second half, like when they come out of halftime, if the losing team is losing by 60 points, they can decide to end the game early.
Ah, okay. Well, so we can apply those. I'm fine to apply that in all non-Skeeza games, but I'm not gonna I wouldn't necessarily go ask a coach or a team to do that. If they say, hey, 40-point lead or 60-point lead, we want to. That's fine. Like Wayne said, if they say, hey, we'd like a running clock in the or one coach says, I want a running clock in the second half. As long as I would put it on the coach to ask the other coach. Okay.
I got the two together.
Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't go over to the other coach independently and say, hey, are you okay with the running clock? Because then they might think you're trying to, you don't want to be there.
Yeah. Hey, another thing, weather. I was at Mitchell Road last year, and at the halftime of the last game, I heard the girl keeping the book say, well, how bad is it getting? And I didn't realize it was snowing pretty hard outside.
Yeah.
I went to the coaches and said, hey, guys, the weather's getting bad. We need to either stop the game or we need to have a running clock. Both of them agreed to have a running clock.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
As long as they agree, especially on weather situation.
Yeah. Which is going to be rare, but if you have it, yeah, definitely, yeah. Okay, 5 more minutes and we're done. I just want to touch on 2 things in points of emphasis, okay? And I'm not big on points of emphasis, especially when it's regarding like traveling and stuff like that. Go with the rule, call traveling, call obvious stuff like that. But there's 2 things in this year's points of emphasis, which is good. One especially, but one is faking being fouled, which was a new rule last year, okay? They adopted the flopping thing, and that's, again, a point of emphasis this year. I'm not big on the flopping thing, to be honest with you, so I wanted to just reiterate again, you have the rule book to support you on a flop a flopping violation instead of a technical. So it's, again, just to set the stage for those, if you judge that a defensive player, typically, sometimes it could be an offensive player, but most of the time it was a defensive player, kind of fakes being fouled, flops. Most of the time it's a block charge type situation. They flop back to fool you, more or less. They're trying to get the call, right? Okay. In the past, you could give them a technical foul for that. I wouldn't have recommended that, okay? Just as I'm not recommending now to even call a flopping violation, okay? But again, you're backed by rule to do so if you want. But to be honest, what I would do is just give them a block. Call a foul on them, okay? They only get 5. And then I'm going to have a conversation with that player. Look, by rule, before the conversation was by rule, I could have given you a technical foul for faking being fouled. Okay, now the conversation is, well, by rule, I could have given you a flop warning, and if you did it twice, then you would get a technical foul. But instead, I'm going to go up to him and say, look, you only get 5 fouls. Just don't fake. Don't fake being fouled, because I'm going to know if you fake or not. All right? So do it legitimately. Take the charge, or, don't be that, don't be that person, right? Don't be that person, because I'm not going to be fooled by that. And you only get 5 fouls, and I'll just put another foul on you. I literally would tell that to a player. I have no problem doing that, okay? They'll go back and tell their coach, and the coach might get upset with you, but you know what, coach? That's the rule. So, all right, it is what it is. So anyway, so that one is, continue to do that as far as flopping stuff. Again, you can call it by rule and be fine. That's as long as you know that rule. The other point of emphasis, which is good, is the bench decorum, okay? So bench decorum is always a problem, always. And I'm going to say, especially with our group of officials, we need to be more consistent with our bench decorum. We need to be, and this is at every level, not just school games. It's a little easier to apply in school games, but there's still issues in school games. But even in church league games, rec league games, we have to be better and more consistent with this. Here's the deal. One coach is allowed to stand. One coach. All players and every other coach must be sitting on the bench. Okay? Now, that's during live play. If there's a great play or something like that, the bench can get up and cheer and, hey, good job. Assistant coach can get up and, react to it. That's fine. They just have to sit right back, basically come sit back down. Okay? They can't say standing up. They can't stand up and coach other than the head coach or one coach. Okay? All right? When they're standing, okay, they need to be, remember what I said about the benches and where they're supposed to be located? Why do you think I put them there? Because a coach has a box, okay? The box is from the 28-foot line to the end line. It's not from the 28-foot line to the center line, to the division line. It's not from the 28-foot line or any other line to the table. No. We don't want coaches near the table. We don't want coaches at the division line. It's from the 28-foot line to their end line, going that way, okay? All right? That's where the one coach that is allowed to stand should be at all times. So we need to be better with that. One coach standing and make sure they're in the right spot, okay? So bench decorum is huge. And then, just other things regarding bench general behavior, listen, an assistant coach has zero right within the rules to address officials. Now, hear what I'm saying. If an assistant coach is respectful, kind, they're not standing, they're not coaching, and let's say at a timeout, an assistant, I'm over here and I say, first horn to the coach, okay? I come over to the bench area and I blow my whistle and I say first horn. And an assistant coach comes up to me and says, hey, has a question. Hey, what'd you see on that last play, or, whatever. I'll talk to them. I have no problem doing that. Okay, so it's not like you can't talk to an assistant coach or they can't talk to you. But during live play, especially, if they're trying to officiate, you shouldn't let the head coach do this either. But an assistant coach has zero recourse if they're trying to officiate your game, like trying to tell you how to officiate. Nip that in the bud immediately. Do not allow it in any of our games. None. Okay? What I do is I tell the coaches in the pregame, I'll have a quick conversation with the coaches. Listen, it's okay for you to stand. Make sure you stay in your box and make sure you keep your bench, including your assistant coaches, under control. Do not allow them to officiate my game. Something like that, okay? Well, however you want to say it, okay? They're not here to officiate. They're here to help you, okay? So, and as soon as a coach, an assistant coach especially, starts yapping about, travel, double dribble, foul, whatever, beep, warning on the bench. I'm not putting up with it. Sorry, okay? I'll give the head coach more leeway, but I will give the bench no leeway. So, beep, warning on the bench. And if the coach says who? Your assistant coach. If it's a player, if you know who the player is, tell them. Number 5. Whatever, okay? All right? And then if they do it again, guess what? Beep, technical foul on the bench. Coach, control your bench. It's as simple as that. We have to do better on the bench decorum. We don't do good enough, especially in the lower level games, church league games, because we let some of these coaches do whatever they want. So, anyway. All right. Any questions before we end? Everybody good? Okay. Thank you. See you next week.
The new throwing rules for backcourt, is that for?
Oh yeah, the spot.
Spots, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to that actually, but
I was just wondering if that was just.
yeah, yes, that is. Sorry, that is kind of a thing too. But yeah, the spot throw-ins came in